would help everyone to be attentive. We are excited to hear about their experiences, but most of all, we're just thankful for them and for the many others that serve our country and who make the sacrifices that they do. We pray this all in Christ's name, amen. Okay, Sam Warnke's going to introduce her mom here.
Hey everyone, how are we doing today? Yes! You win, okay. Hi, my name is Samantha Warnke, and I'm a senior here at Rapid City Christian, and I have the absolute pleasure of introducing my mom to you. So my mom is Colonel Tiffany Warnke, and she served in the United States Air Force for over 25 years, and she retired in 2022 at the rank of full colonel. So that's pretty cool. And then a little fun fact about my mom is that when we lived in Jersey during COVID, she dressed up in a stinky old Santa costume and went around the base and gave out candy canes and boosted morale to a bunch of the people working during the holidays and shoveling snow on the runways. So that's pretty funny, to see your mom walking around in a greasy old Santa costume that smells like a garbage can. So, and then another fun fact about her is that when she was deployed, she flew me to Doha, Qatar to see her in over 120-degree heat. So that was pretty cool. That was a fun experience. But yeah, so without further ado, my mother, Tiffany Warnke.
You'll be nice. I'm going to go up here just because I might have to reference my notes every once in a while. So, good morning, everybody. It's fun to look out into the crowd and see some familiar faces. Hi. I have to clarify a couple things for Samantha. She was wanting to embarrass me. So, I have to say the reason I don't normally put on Santa costumes, and colonels typically don't put on Santa costumes, but it was COVID during New Jersey. And for those of you who lived in South Dakota during COVID, I don't think you know how rough life was over on the East Coast during COVID. So my team was denied leave for over a year. No one could get military leave to go see their family. They were tired. They were frustrated. They were tired of wearing masks. We wore masks everywhere, always. You couldn't eat in restaurants for the entire year that we were there. And really rough when you get a snowstorm on Christmas, and not only is your team working, but they can't go home to any family, and they haven't seen anybody for a really long time. So the first sergeants of a unit come up to you and they say, "Hey, ma'am, I think you need to wear this." And I smelled it and I said, "I'm pretty sure I don't." And she said, "Nope, you need to do this. We need to go out and see some troops." So we spent some time doing that. It wasn't just a whim that I go, and I don't typically dress up in Santa costumes and do that. But it was something that was real important to us, and I had a lot of fun. Nobody knew who I was most of the time unless they got close. They just thought it was some crazy lady out on the runway in a Santa costume. So good types. And also for Qatar, I think what Samantha didn't tell you, which is an awesome story, is that when I brought her and Nathaniel down to Qatar, I knew I was going to be there for a really long time. And so I just wanted to break it up a little bit, so I had a 3-day weekend, and I said, I'm going to take leave, and David, bring the kiddos down, and we're going to show them Doha, Qatar. It was 120, 130 during that weekend, so we stayed at the hotel and ate room service and went down to the hotel pool, and down in that pool was a number of Muslim women, and they wear burkinis, is their bikini, and it is a full-fledged bodysuit. And all Samantha kept saying was, "They look so hot," right? But that is the Muslim culture. They, even when they're in a swimming pool, are fully covered up, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So just to clarify, she was trying to embarrass me, and Miss Breed promised me if I talked up here today that I would get to embarrass her, but that didn't work out exactly like I wanted. But it is a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to try to get through a little bit of material. 25 years is a really long time. And so I have a few different stories that I'd like to get to just to give you some context. But first, I just want to say a few things about being a veteran. I have always wanted to serve in the military. I was one of those rare folks that really genuinely wanted to serve in the military from a very young age on. I had seen my father. He's a Vietnam veteran. My father served in Vietnam. He served for 3 years flying combat missions, reconnaissance missions over northern Vietnam. I also have 2 uncles that were in Vietnam. My husband served with me for 20 years, and both of my brother-in-laws are pilots in the Air Force. So I come from a family with a lot of service members, and what I want to tell you is that the biggest thing about being a veteran is not going to war, and it's not the glory, and it's not all of that. It's the fact of service and sacrifice and being a part of a group of people that so dearly adore each other and can come together with purpose and through sacrifice and hard work to accomplish a mission. There's no relationship like that of what you have with your military service. I had watched my father when he came back from Vietnam, and he'd been there for 3 years, and with the unit, they bring everybody from all walks of life, they put them together in a unit, they make them get along, and they make them accomplish a mission. For the next 50, 60 years, my father's unit has gotten together every 2 years for a reunion. He is 80 years old now, but the relationships he built with the people he served with in Vietnam were so special, so tight, so untetherable, that he would continue to meet with those people and keep in touch with those people for the rest of his life. I think most veterans that you meet will not always have a positive story about their time in service. Not all of them are mom the flag, apple pie, and ate up. Not all of them were happy about their service. Not all of them volunteered. A lot were voluntold or drafted into the military, especially when you look at World War I, II, Vietnam, Korea, that era. But I think what you will find with every veteran that you meet is they will tell you not every day was good, but there was good in every day. And that good came from those they served with. I think it's very comparable to the Christian community, where we all have differences, but we all come together, right, to serve a common purpose and to be a part of that. And there's something extremely fulfilling for every veteran to be a part of that, something bigger than themselves, okay? There's always been a lot of people coming up to you in different times of the year, but especially nowadays on Veterans Day, and people come up and say to you, and they will say, hey, thank you for your service. And I usually reply one of two ways, and I either say it was my honor to serve, because I genuinely believe that, and it was very deep into my heart, the people I served with, the sacrifices we made for the freedoms that you live each and every day. But the other response I often give is, you are worth it. Our country is worth the service of our veterans. We need veterans. We need them to make sure that they keep our country free, they keep all of you and your future free, and each and every day our country and you are worth their sacrifice. Always remember that, okay? I want to spend a couple minutes just kind of going through some photos, because I think it provides some context and some funny stories about what it is to be a veteran for me. So 25 years, I'm a civil engineer. I am not a pilot. Not everyone in the Air Force is a pilot, although we do have 13,000 pilots in our Air Force, okay? Do the math. There are 330,000 support personnel in our United States Air Force. I am one of them. As a civil engineer, my main job was to build runways, but we also did roads and commodes and firefighting and explosive ordnance disposal, the bomb team. We did a lot of other things to support the mission all around facilities and infrastructure as a civil engineer. But make no mistake, my main job was to support pilots so we could launch and recover airframe. And there are 330,000 people every day that do that for our 13,000 pilots. So those of you in advanced math, how many people is that per person, per pilot, to get them in the air? 25, 26 people for every pilot that goes in the air as a support person on the ground that is helping them to get there. That's the definition of teamwork, okay? All right. As I said earlier, the biggest thing about being a veteran is being a part of something bigger than yourself, contributing to that mission, and being a part of a group who ensures the freedom of our great nation. There are sacrifices, there are bad days, but the people always get you through. And in the 25 years, I've had the opportunity to be a lot of different places. I've lived in 14 locations. I've deployed 4 different times to Qatar and Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Oman, and had the pleasure to live overseas for 7 or 8 years in Germany and Korea and all locations. And at each of those, it wasn't always a great day, but the people always made it a lot of fun. Just give you a couple of views. So here's officer training. This is a reserve officer training. I was supposed to go to the academy and was in a little accident and didn't make it to the academy. I ended up going to North Dakota State University. I'm sorry, Jackrabbits. Bison. But went to North Dakota State University and was commissioned as a second lieutenant into the Air Force. I offer you that story about the academy as don't ever let anything, don't let a door close. There's always another path for you, and the good Lord will show it to you. So I went to officer training at NDSU, graduated 4 years later, and came into the Air Force. This is the crew that I served with when you come into the Air Force. As a civil engineer, they send you down to Florida, and they give you a blank piece of land, and they say, build a runway, build a tent city, do all this stuff. Make it have air conditioning, electricity, figure it out. And so that's us in one of the main days of where we're trying to learn how to build a tent city. You'll see the uniform, it's very different. I went through 4 different utility uniforms during my time of service. That's how I knew it was time to retire, because you can only go through so many uniforms. This was my first deployment as a brand new first lieutenant. I'd been in the Air Force for 2 years and took 130 men overseas to Saudi Arabia. And I want to offer you just a little perspective about Saudi Arabia in 1998. Those group on the left is all the officers that I served with. We were all engineers doing different design and construction of facilities in Saudi Arabia. And it was a unique experience for me, very overwhelming. Very young officer, wasn't sure the Air Force had it in its right mind to send me overseas with a bunch of people. And then when we got into there's something called a SOFA. When we go into another country and we serve our country, it's called the Status of Forces Agreement. And the Status of Forces Agreement tells you how you will behave and what you will be doing. And the Status of Forces said for any woman, if you go off the base, you are going to wear full burqa. You're going to wear the abaya, the hijab, and that because they are a Muslim country. Well, I was a Christian, and I wanted no part of that. So I didn't go off base my entire time there because I wasn't going to wear that. But I offer that story to you in addition. My friend went downtown, and she lost her hijab. It fell off of her head, and the mutwa would come and beat her on the head with a stick. This is in 1998. I offer you that just as perspective for the freedoms you have each and every day. Only 5 years ago, 6 or 7, I guess it would be, in 2018, that Saudi Arabia actually gave everybody, 6, 7. You're welcome. That they allowed women to drive and not have to cover their head without getting hit on the head. So these are the freedoms that veterans give to you each and every day. These are the things that you get to afford because someone said they would stand up, go to that country, and defend your freedoms every day. Go to the next slide. Or, that's me, isn't it? I'm sorry. I know we're running out of time, so I'll try and get done here. This is just training camp, looking good. And this is a second deployment. When we were supposed to be going into Iraq, we were going for the Army. We took some extensive Army training, and then they changed our mission. And we went to Kuwait, which was a lot less guns. And that's the team there, and we built a huge infrastructure up in Kuwait for those people. This is us in Germany. Germans love parades. I just wanted to throw something in there with a little more fun. It wasn't always deployments. Sometimes it was just outreach with the country you were in to show them that you were in things together. This is my last deployment in Qatar when I brought Samantha to Qatar with me. This is my team. We had 680 folks fixing runways and launching airframe during a pretty intense period of time in 2015 when we were launching against ISIS and ISIL. I'm sure you've heard about them in the news. Very bad guys doing really bad things. And this is some of the Qatari leaders that we worked with. One of them in the middle is the lead engineer. I was the lead engineer for the Air Force. He was the lead engineer for Qatar. We were very different. He did invite me to his daughter's wedding, and if you ever have a half an hour, I can tell you all about what it's like to be at a Muslim wedding. This is EOD warriors. Just know that not all of our warriors came back, and not all of them came back in one piece. This is just a fundraiser we did when I was deployed. The 2 gentlemen in the front, that's a 90-pound suit that they wear when they go defuse bombs. They wore that the entire 5K. I did not. But we were raising funds for our brethren that didn't come home exactly the way we wanted them to. And that's the teamwork and fellowship we're talking about. This is New Jersey, where we sent up camps in COVID, 5 different camps. It was a very different world in COVID than it was here in South Dakota. We had a 10% death rate in COVID when I was there. We found out later it was elderly, but at the time that was a very, very scary thing. And so we had sent up huge base camps of tents and hospitals and care centers to take care of things. And this is the snow Samantha was talking about, where many a holiday that your folks are out on the line. They're not with their families. They're doing things to accomplish the mission. Runways always are open, no matter if it's snow or not, and no matter if it's Christmas. You never know when you're going to need to launch and recover airframe. So I knew she was going to tell you I was a Santa Claus. There it is. It was a wonderful day, and it was wonderful because of the great people I served with. So that is the end. Don't ever forget that you are worth our service. And never forget to thank a veteran for theirs. Okay? Now give it to Ed.
All right, Jet Dreyer is going to introduce his dad.
Good morning. My name is Jet Dreyer, and today I have the honor of introducing one of our veteran speakers, my dad, Ed Dreyer. He served in the U.S. Army from 1999 to 2002 as an infantryman in the 3rd U.S. Infantry, the Old Guard. During his time in the Old Guard, my dad served as a rifleman on the Full Honor Firing Party for Full Honor Funeral Services with Arlington National Cemetery, also as a tomb sentinel at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and performed various ceremonial duties across Washington, D.C., including at the Capitol, the White House, and at the Pentagon. His unit was the first responding unit to the Pentagon on 9/11 after the terrorist attacks of that day. Please welcome my dad, Ed Dreyer.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. I guess I just wanted to start out and kind of discuss the reason that I went into the military. A little bit different. The military was always a big thing for my family. Like Tiffany, my father had served in the military during Vietnam. My grandpa, World War II. Several other family members dating back all the way till the Civil War. We've had Dryers in the military. Currently, my brother is still serving, and I have 2 nieces that are now in the military. But how my path started was in high school, my parents basically had a rule that they weren't going to help us with college, and either had to get a scholarship or the other option was the military. And my grades weren't stellar, and I wasn't the best athlete either, so I didn't have a whole lot of options there. So I was kind of fighting it a little bit. I really wanted to go to school because, at that point, I thought I wanted to go to college, and I really wanted to be an airline pilot, so I know I needed to get to college somehow. So after fighting a little bit, this is my senior year, I came home from school one day, and there's a van parked in my driveway and had government plates on it. And I thought, that's a little strange. And what had happened was my dad, or my mom and dad, they invited the Army and Navy recruiter over for dinner to talk future plans with me that night. So that night I got the full rundown on what the Navy and what the Army could offer me, and I kind of left after that supper. I had a big decision to make, which route I was going to take. Gave it some pondering, and my brother at the time, he was in the Army, or just had gotten out of the Army, was in college at that point. Kind of discussed things through with him, and I decided to go with the Army. So at that point, if you chose certain job fields, they offered more money to you and maybe shorter enlistment time. So I chose the infantry, and mainly as a teenage boy, I thought, I was kind of remembering, watching The Dirty Dozen and Rambo and all those good shows, and I thought, that looks pretty cool to shoot machine guns and fire rocket launchers and blow stuff up, and I thought, that might be the place for me. So away I went. Before I went, though, I did recruit my best friend since first grade, Chris Rankin. I talked to him about it, and he decided to join with me. So we went to the Army in a program called a Battle Buddy program. So went to basic training in infantry school, and that was in Fort Benning, Georgia. And upon going there, you know, everything you see in the movies, that's kind of where they strip the civilian out of you and start instilling military bearing in you to create a soldier. A lot of that's, you know, creating discipline and, you know, I guess subjecting you to stress, because obviously with what you're preparing to do for a job, you need to be able to handle a lot of stress and still perform your job at a high level. While I was at infantry school, one day we had a big formation that was called, and there's about 200 of us, and this gentleman came out. At that time, you know, everything's new, and I think he was a platoon sergeant, so he's an E7, which back then that was like really high ranking. So they called a formation. They called 2 of us out of that formation that day. And I thought, oh my goodness, what did I do? What's happening here? So turns out he was a recruiter for a unit called the Old Guard. I'd never heard of this before. I was originally slated to go to the 82nd Airborne. I was going to be an airborne infantryman. And this recruiter took us aside as me and this gentleman named Mike Freeman, which I'm still buddies with him today. He's from upstate Maine. We called him the Lobster Hunter, and because of his thick accent. And believe it or not, he is now he's a commercial lobsterman. So believe it or not. But so during this meeting, he was like, "Hey, we have this interesting opportunity for you. You know, your ASVAB scores are at a point where you qualify for this unit. You meet the height and weight requirements, and which at that time you had to be over 6 feet tall and had a 32-inch waist, and I can't remember what the the ASVAB requirements, but you had to be at a certain level." So he said, as long as you don't have any criminal records and you pass our background checks, and you get 90% or above on all of your physical fitness standards leaving basic training, you will become a member of the Old Guard leaving infantry training. So I thought, well, this sounds awesome. Let's sign me up, and we're good to go. So went back to training. About 3 weeks later, this recruiter calls me out of a formation again. He said, takes me back to his office, and like, Private Dreyer, we had some issues on your background check. I'm like, wow, that's weird. Turns out what they had found was it's from a snowball fight in 5th grade that I had, and it was after school, and one of my buddies had a errant snowball that hit a mom going into the school, and there was a report filed for that, and what went on my record was illegal discharge of a projectile in city limits, believe it or not. So I then had to call some local judges that actually my mom knew some local judges, and they were able to expunge this from my record. So I was able to get White House security clearance and some other security clearances that I would need with going to the Old Guard. So it's amazing how deep they went. I know they called all of my friends' parents and people that I knew from early childhood. It was pretty amazing what I found out they were looking into through this process. But so move on to after I finished infantry school, I actually moved to my unit, which was in Washington, D.C., the Old Guard, which a lot of people might not recognize it, but it's a really small unit within the U.S. Army, and they call it the Old Guard because it's the oldest active duty infantry unit in the Army. It was formed in 1784. Our mission there was we're the official ceremonial unit of the Army and the escort to the president. So with that job, we did a lot of ceremonies throughout Washington, D.C. If you guys have ever seen the silent drill team that does all the fancy rifle twirling without any audible commands, that's stationed there. Part of our unit, we have the fife and drum corps, which is separate, I guess, from the infantry unit. But We have Alpha Company. They wear the powdered wigs and kind of do a lot of ceremonial stuff around D.C. We have the Caisson unit, which is the horse, a platoon that rides horses throughout the cemetery. They pull the caisson for funerals. We had the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, our soldier. And then we also did all of the cemetery work in Arlington National Cemetery for burying our lost service members. So my job at the Old Guard, when I got there, I was assigned to Charlie Company, 2nd Platoon, which were the crack rats. So I became a part of a firing party. We did a ceremonial 21-gun salutes for a full honor firing party. So my job was, if we're burying anybody from colonel or above that qualified to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery, we would give final respects to that family and that service member. Along with that, you had the horse-drawn caisson, 2 marching platoon elements, a full marching band, and it's quite impressive to see that when you're involved with it. Another job that I did while at the Old Guard is I did a year down at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That job was quite a bit more intense than our previous unit. You know, the previous unit, the standards are very high there, you know, as far as appearance, uniform, you know, military bearing, your fitness level had to be top notch. When I went to the tomb, it kind of took it to a whole new level. The amount of memorization that took place, you know, I'd spend my evenings running around the cemetery at night, reciting information about different graves and different folks that were buried in those graves to give information, you know, to the commanders of the tomb there. One thing that you do kind of behind the scenes at this place would be, you know, when you're a newbie, you had to earn your walk. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tomb of the Unknowns, but it's a tomb where there's 3 unknown soldiers that rest, one from World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. There used to be a 4th, Michael J. Blassie, as a lieutenant from the Air Force. He was disinterred because we actually found out his identity, and they took him out of the tomb. But currently there's 3 members of the service that are there, and they're unknown soldiers. So our job is to pay respects to those folks that not only gave their lives, but they gave up their identity for us. You know, that they gave the ultimate sacrifice. Still moves me to this day thinking about that. But a lot of people don't realize either that, you know, in addition to those 3 service men or women that are in that Tomb of the Unknown, you know, there's thousands of other unknowns. This is just to represent, you know, the thousands and thousands of others that are out there. I know just in Arlington National Cemetery, we believe there's roughly 4,000 other unknowns that are buried within Arlington that have not only given their life, but given their identity. Something about the tomb, when I was there, you know, we do the 21 steps back and forth. It was guarded 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, rain or shine, didn't matter, we were out there. Interesting part, you learn to become really good at ironing clothes. Something you wouldn't think about when you join the Army, but we actually had our own press rooms at any unit you are in the Old Guard. So we would press and prep our own uniforms. When I was at the tomb, I would typically spend about 8 hours a day after I come off duty preparing my uniform for the next day. So it was, everything had to be measured to the millimeter, and we would get our uniforms checked before we'd go out on the mat the next day. That comes from, you know, shining our shoes to a mirror finish. We'd even shine the bottoms of our shoes. That's how crazy it got there. Everything pressed, measured, and when you ask to earn that walk, your commander will ask you to recite information that you've been tasked to memorize. And if you do it correctly, you can earn that walk and get up there on the mat and do that session up there. Whether it's summer, we're in a half-hour stint, or in the wintertime, it was an hour stint at a time. There were occasions where I would do a vigil, and a vigil is when you take the entire night shift on for your buddies down below to allow them to sleep. So instead of shifting or changing shifts throughout the night, if you take the vigil, you would stay out there the whole night and guard the tomb by yourself, let your buddies sleep, and you would take on that 12-hour shift by yourself. It's amazing how heavy an 8-pound rifle will get after a few hours, but let me tell you, it gets extremely heavy. One thing, we're never allowed to lower the weapon to the ground when you're out there, so you're always holding that rifle when you're on guard. At night, a lot of people wonder if we're still in our full ceremonial dress uniforms, which we are not, actually. So we are allowed to change into a battle dress uniform at night when we're doing those nighttime shifts. Another thing that the Old Guard would do, or another part of our job, was our infantry role was the defense of Washington, D.C. So if, I know we were a small unit, but at the time we were non-deployable as an all-male unit. And if there were an emergency in Washington, D.C., or some type of a war act, we would be the first responders for the Washington, D.C. area. So there's only one time while I was there where we actually were called into that part of our job. Just so happened during the 9/11 attacks on our country, my unit at that point, we were the immediate reaction company for that week for Washington, D.C. So upon the attacks on our country that day, back in 2001, my unit was called up to the Pentagon, and once we got through all the confusion of what was happening that day, we were deployed to the Pentagon and helped with recovery and basically recovery and cleanup and security for the Pentagon for the next, I think we were down there for 6 weeks until we were able to go back to our regular jobs back then. But kind of wanted to touch base as far as what Tiffany mentioned too. The guys I served with, great group of guys. They remain very, very close to me to this day. We also do reunions. We try to get together every 5 years. It's amazing the relationships you create with folks when you go through. You just go through a lot together. You truly become family. You lean on each other, and it's kind of an old saying in the Army where you embrace the suck. And a lot of times you go through the hardest things together. It brings you closer. You come out the other side, and you always have those guys to lean on moving forward. And to this day, I know every one of those guys would still give their life for one of our brothers in arms to this day, and I know they would for you as well. So I don't know if we have a couple. I did bring a couple slides, and then I'll be able to answer any questions too if you guys have some. So that's me and my wife. That's me when I'm in my full ceremonial dress tomb uniform. One interesting thing about the tomb uniform is, the Old Guard for across the board is one of the very few units that was like my daily uniform, was a ceremonial uniform. We wore horseshoes on the bottom of our shoes so we wouldn't wear them out because we walked so much, but they also gave that really nice click when you walk, and it sounded really cool. The belt that I'm wearing, that's something we make that ourselves when we're going through tomb training. We actually dye it and put the buckle on and do all the shining, all that stuff. The hat, we modify the hats. We put coat hangers and cardboard in them to give them that appearance of a flat hat. We never wanted the bubble head on the top. And when you're on the mat, you wanted that to be parallel to the ground, as we did what we called a ghost walk. So a ghost walk is there's no bouncing when you walk. It just looks like you're gliding across the ground. Another thing with the old guard is part of the, our manual of arms, we're a little bit different from the standard military. But let's see. Do you have I got the button here. This is my unit. That was right after the attacks on the Pentagon. Unit took a picture there, and I can't remember what year this was. I think it's maybe our 15-year reunion or something like that. But we always get together. We remember some of the folks that we've lost throughout the years, whether it was quite a few buddies that went on, served in other units and lost their lives, and we always pay respects to them at Arlington, the ones that are buried there, and then obviously the folks at the Pentagon that lost their lives that day. But fantastic group of guys there, and it's amazing how close you'll stay with them. That's what I got for you guys. So you guys have any questions for me? So the tomb is it's a big marble box. So originally it was just the soldier from World War I that was buried in there. And later they brought in unknowns from the different wars, and they put these marble slabs out in front of it, in which the service members from the other wars were buried in it. I used to be able to tell you exactly how many leaves and olives were on that thing and every word on it, but I kind of forgot over the years. We were never, so at the time he asked if what's the longest I ever had to go to war. So my unit was actually non-deployable at the time. So we actually, with us being in charge of the defense of Washington, we rarely would get deployed. But my unit did get deployed through all the major wars, starting back in the Mexican-American War. Our last deployment was, we did deploy in Vietnam, and I believe we had one company that went over in support of the Iraqi War. That's nice. She asked if it was hard going through the workouts, and yes, it was. One thing for my unit, we had part of our training is you had to run a 5 mile in 40 minutes.